Imagine you are working for 20 years for the most important organization in the world. You have amazing career that many people are jealous about. Many people probably think that you are having paid vacation. You are managing and leading multi-million dollar programs. You are working in humanitarian response in development across the whole world, 8 countries, 5 regions. You are selected to a lead talent pool of UNICEF. And then you decide to walk away. Welcome to the very first episode of Leadership Across Border podcast. My name is Lyudmila Struk. I am a career coach and strategist. I work with experts around the world to help them to change their life, to enhance their career, and start their own business. And today with me is incredible woman, Dr. Elisa Calpona. Elisa worked for UNICEF for over 20 years. She worked in 5 regions and 8 countries, including a New York headquarters. She led humanitarian response. She led development reforms. And then, when she was selected to UNICEF Deputy Representative's talent pool, something that many people were dreaming about, she left organization. Despite being offered multiple job offers, opportunities for growth. Why? We will discuss today. And also today we will discuss about transitions, leadership, and any other important topics. Welcome, Dr. Elisa Calpona.
Thank you, Lyudmila. Thank you for the very generous introduction. First, I want to say thanks. I'm humbled by the presentation overall and for being the first guest in your episodes of the lab. Truly speaking, many other colleagues will represent very valuable options for you to invite, so I feel privileged. I've been following you on LinkedIn. I saw the contribution you provide to professionals, especially considering career shifts, and therefore I'm thankful and happy to be here.
One more thing about Dr. Elisa, that she is PhD in global health and development. So for her, mental health and well-being is very important and going through the whole her work. Also, she is working and inspiring young people in different countries. Lisa, first question I want to ask you about UN and about UNICEF. If you had to talk with someone from outside the system, with someone young and inspired, how would you describe a work for the most important and influential global organization? What does it mean?
Thank you, Lyudmila. Well, what it meant for me, it has been an entire world. I was 5 years old when I chose to serve the most vulnerable children on the world. I remember my parents asking me, "What would you like to do when you grow up?" And I say, "I want to be an ambassador for all the children." And they were quite astonished. Then I carry on towards this goal. I had to do many sacrifices. I studied diplomacy in Bologna. I'm originally from Sicily, Italy. I have conducted multiple internships. I won scholarship. And then I finally entered in 2006, 20 years ago. And that day I remember I felt I realized my life dream. What would I say to young generation? The same that are approaching me nowadays, including at the Trinity College where I'm supporting master students. I would say that it's absolutely worthwhile. It is a dream that comes with huge responsibilities. It's not a simple job. You have to embrace a lifestyle. It's a huge responsibility in terms of accountabilities. You are not doing anything, you are serving the most vulnerable, and because of that, you occupy very sensitive role in society. You have to use your diplomatic skill at all times. You have to be politically savvy because you're going to be confronted with enormous challenges in very complex contexts, including polycrisis, in places where speaking up can be very sensitive, delicate, and therefore you will have to compromise on your thoughts, your ideas, to make sure that you represent at your maximum best your organization, United Nations. And you have to gain the trust of the communities you serve, of the colleagues you encounter, the national staff, the government you partner with. So it is absolutely worth it. It requires enormous commitment and also a lot of personal sacrifices. You mentioned about the prestige. You mentioned about the feasibility almost of a vacation life because we are privileged enough to explore the world. But this is not about traveling. This is to do with integrating, adapting, being flexible, learning, listening. And to learn all this, you have to mold yourself. You have to forge yourself. It doesn't come natural at first. And you have to compromise for your own family. You may not have a family in the first place.
It's not something that people usually are talking about. You already raised many important questions. But I want to start from very beginning. What actually attracted young Italian woman in international service?
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself, but generally, I was a child. It was my childhood dream. And later on, through the help of some specialists, professional working with me in emergency settings, and through a process of self actualization, reflection, I realized this was linked to some images I saw when I was a child, images of some children, particularly vulnerable, that just define who I wanted to become. I wanted to embrace a bigger cause. And I knew it would not be easy. My parents were professors in Italy. No one ever in my family migrated, unlikely. And so I had to do it all by myself. I had to study for it. I had to pave the way. And I was persistent. I never gave up. And so I dedicated to it my entire life up to 4 months ago.
And as I said before, many people see international service as long paid vacation, that it's so glamorous, that international career brings only opportunities. But what was your first cultural shock, or maybe something that actually you were not prepared about in international career?
Well, first of all, I believe genuinely entering as a young woman, there was quite a lot of competition. There were expectations toward having leaders that are more senior. So I'm thankful to the organization because they gave me trust. I learned a lot along the way, but it wasn't always smooth. I had to prove myself. I had to compete with millions of people, maybe thousand, not million, but from everywhere in the world. And to acquire qualifications, you're always required to already have qualifications. So it was a difficult dance to dance. So entering wasn't the goal or the target, it was just the beginning. And then growing, my profound commitment to learning, including the PhD, people will tell me it's not necessary, but I wanted to perfection it, I want to improve myself. And so this was the first big challenge, a very competitive career. Professionally, as I said, I felt always very accountable. I was going to sleep every night thinking, did I have an impact in people's life? Did I negotiate well with the prime minister? Did I convince the donors? Did I represent well my organization? And did I make a difference in the life of many vulnerable children and their communities? So this has been definitely something that kept me on my toes my whole life. Finally, personally, and I touched a little bit upon it before, I didn't know I would ever get married and have a family. This would have been an ideal world, but I was ready to compromise and to carry on only with my career. It's only when I went to Liberia, when I met my husband, Jean-Baptiste, that I felt I was ready. And then we learn how to support each other in this path. So ultimately, every day has been and uncertainty for someone that is used to plan since 5 years old, it means quite a lot.
And you mentioned about competitiveness about of organization and work, and it's very interesting. Now we have formal or informal some mechanism to support female candidates. But what was the reality when you just started? How did you feel to be a young female, and also that time probably not with prestigious passport?
It was intimidating, Lyudmila, to be honest with you. I found myself in huge conferences room in New York where we were discussing how to contribute with the General Assembly and position young people to speak with Ban Ki-moon. And, I was coming from a background in diplomacy, and I would see around the table decision makers that were 20 years or more older than me, very outspoken, very bold. In New York also, I would say the American presence was more predominant, and I was not a native English speaker, so things came, and it was just intimidating. And the fact that I had to be as vocal, as outspoken, as confident, it took time, and I had to convince myself that everybody can carry different value, and my value was just to be different. And in this difference, I built my profile, my identity, and I try to believe, thanks to multiple supervisor, mentors, and colleagues, I walk along in this path. So it wasn't overnight process. It took years of structure exercise. As you say, now there are mechanisms in place, and I remember recently attending the UN leadership training by the UN Staff College for P5 leaders, all women. And so this was really something new to me, a new ingredient, an added value where people from the same perspective will support each other and provide tips. It has been really substantial for me, and I encourage these processes to grow and increase because we all need them.
Mhm. And if talk about experiences that shaped you as a leader, what were countries or maybe some jobs or positions which really influenced you as a leader?
Well, I would say since the really beginning in New York, I was in power. I was working on global policies and collaborating within the General Assembly framework. So I must confess I was given trust from the beginning. And then it was good to challenge myself and to find some inspiration to overcome shyness, fears, among others. I think every country gave me a lot. I felt at one moment New York would not satisfy me enough, was not being enough fulfilling because I wanted to see the results of my policy making. So I moved to Kenya, and I worked with UNICEF at that time to provide a response for the Somali crisis. And this really opened me an horizon, seeing the tangible results, the impact we can have immediately in providing support to the most vulnerable along the migratory routes from Somalia was a life-changing experience. And from there, I never wanted to walk away. Then in Liberia, I was managing the crisis in Ivory Coast during the revolution, 2011, 2012. It was also a very meaningful experience because, as I say, I met my husband, so we decided to build a family despite the adventurous life we had embraced. At the time, he was in the private sector, and I gradually and gently converted him to support development, humanitarian, and he ended up building hospitals and schools in Bangladesh in the end. So it has been a transformational journey for us as a couple. Ivory Coast during the revolution forced me immensely. I was in contact with a very unpleasant episode during a mission at the border with Liberia. A man was killed next to my room, and I witnessed everything, and it wasn't easy to overcome this other challenge. So this inject me resilience, or the development after the adversity, I think is called clinically. the willingness to learn from the experience, to consider yourself lucky, and to try to push yourself more, to work harder for those that are less fortunate. And I will continue so forth and so on. Egypt, through the Syrian response, taught me that I can still deliver immediate results while looking at the longer term impact. So the concept of sustainability, scalability, to which I committed all along my PhD and my professional practice, how to help not only the recipient of our help, but to make them, agent of change, and to support the hosting country and to strengthen the system, not only handing over supplies or food or protection, but rather made them the main character of this work. And then I culminated this experience in Bangladesh in my last 5 years, really trying to build strategic systems that are durable, so that the government will own them entirely and I will feel less necessary, me representing the United Nations. The less necessary we are after we hand over a program, the more we succeeded.
And I hear very impressive experience. So many hard destinations and duties. And I know you managed big teams. Also, you managed teams of 60 people. But people see only bright side. How you think? What are the main misunderstandings or what people really misunderstood about leadership in international context?
That's interesting. Well, leadership is a very complex concept, and I think sometimes it's associated with power and prestige, and it can eventually lead to that. But as long as it's clarified that it requires trust building, you need to earn the leadership. It's not an automatic process. There is no magic formula in my experience, but I never assumed to be a supervisor and so to be able to dictate ideas or to promote my thinking. On the contrary, the more I grew up on the ladder, the more I realized that I had to listen, to learn from others, and to shape jointly building consensus. So when I was called by some team members, and this honored me immensely, even in the tough days, I remember this sentence, transformational leader. I started reflecting about it. What did it mean? It meant that we build things together and we reflect and we brainstorm together, and the ideas came horizontally rather than vertically. So leadership is a huge responsibility and can be very counterproductive if misused. So it's something that you have to use really cautiously. It's a very fragile system eventually. So can empower others and fulfill you if you do it in the right way. It's all about how to do it. And I was privileged, yes. My supervisor, the organization, entrusted me with large and diverse teams. Not only in UNICEF, I work also at the government in Brazil with more than 80 supervisees. And as a foreigner with the Brazilian residency, it was even more challenging. But I learned a lot, and these lessons learned are applied daily in my life, in and outside work.
Mhm. And what is about leadership outside work? What is the most challenging?
Yeah, I think that gathering consensus is something at the key of our society. Living in a community demands that you are flexible enough, adaptable, so that you can learn. For instance, I came to Ireland a few months ago and I wanted to integrate. So I tried to understand the mentality, the expectations, the perception about a newcomer. And I believe that if we are respectful and we show care in our journey, this will pay back. And in a very small and short amount of time, I could gather many new friends. I call them friends because they've been very helpful, inclusive. My children have been navigating very smoothly this transition. My husband has been immediately embarked in a job opportunity from the onset of our arrival. I believe that leadership taught me how to be open to others and be adaptable.
And you mentioned that you worked across political instabilities during humanitarian crises, and also, to be honest, during the downshifting of programs budget cuts, especially last year. And this is very tough moment of uncertainty. And for many people, it's hard to make decisions or to move forward when they feel this frustration, uncertainty, and they don't know next steps. So I want to ask about this. What helped or how did you manage to make decisions and to lead teams, programs in the moment of uncertainty?
Thank you. That's a very relevant question nowadays. Well, the sector is experiencing shrinking, reform, funding cuts, and on top of that, you have to carry on programs in the most vulnerable settings. I'm referring to Bangladesh, where we had to embrace fully the poly crisis, child rights concerns, extreme weather events, political uprising, and team highly demoralized by the funding cuts. Well, when you occupy a leadership position, when you are managing a 25 million or plus protection program, when you have to deliver for the most vulnerable, you cannot afford to stop. You can reflect, you can slow down, but you need to find your inner resilience and resources. And you cannot do this on your own. There is no one size fits all. You don't come in the morning and say, these children still need help, so let's make it work. You need really first to boost the morale of your team, to remain transparent and trustworthy to yourself, so keep the integrity, be frank about the challenges you are facing, and never focus on the deficit, but always focus on what are the available resources. And if they are not enough, which is the case, not only financially, but also many other type of resources, then prioritize. Focus on the life saving, focus on what can have a more impactful outcome. So I think programmatically speaking, the continuum of care is an ethical obligation for United Nations. And UNICEF did an incredible job in the last few months. I witnessed this personally. There was not a flood or a monsoon or a cyclone that will not receive the adequate response, even proportional to huge impact like 8 million displaced, among other devastating, catastrophic effects. So all my admiration goes to these organizations that don't give up and they keep carrying on while boosting the morale of the staff members that may be at risk of losing their job, including myself, maybe not having an immediate opportunity to provide for their families, but keep prioritizing, the duty and the oath they committed to at the beginning. So this type of commitment is something I was always privileged to be part of. And honestly speaking, the reward will just generate more resilience among the staff member. And all of them eventually found some other solution for themselves in terms of private life. And this is also encouraging to see how recyclable are. And that's why I'm here today, to contribute to this dialogue.
And about talking about you, as a senior leader, going through this budget cuts, changes in international foundations and basics, because I think last year was the most dramatic for the whole UN system, but not only the UN system, for the whole civil society in many countries across the globe. How did you see and how did you go through this dramatic pressure? What helped you to move forward?
Thank you, Ludmila. I think this is still very recent to me. So I'm in the phase of analyzing and metabolizing all I went through in the past 14 months. Is I undertook multiple recruitment processes, so this generated a lot of extra burden compared to the normal workload. Many of the posts I applied for, around 10, were just not existing anymore. They vanished due to funding cuts, so the vacancies could not be fulfilled. So the vacancies could not be filled in, and this generated also within myself the big question mark: will I ever make it? Will I be able to remain in the system? And I am grateful, as you say, amidst this dramatic crisis and reform and restructuring, I was considered for promotions in a time where many of my peers had to say goodbye. So I am honored. I take this very seriously, and I showed my gratitude, and I am grateful to the entire organization for the opportunity recognized to hardworking staff members. At the same time, I had to make a clear reflection within my family committee. You know, we are four now. We have two children, a pre-adolescent, each of them very empowered in expressing their point of view. And I ask if some of these opportunities presented will be feasible. I must say that there were also some family situation, health condition for my daughter, a sudden surgery that made me reflect that not every country is suitable for receiving the staff member with their families. So this type of consideration preventing me from embracing some of the offer. In some cases, I received a promotion in one of my favorite countries in the world. I don't want to be biased, so I'm not going to list them. But I still could not say yes because there was some political instability as well recently, like our experience in Bangladesh. And my husband simply said, "You deserve your promotion. It's a prize, it's a reward. You should go, but I may stay with the children behind." And I could not cope with this idea. If I would have been single, I would have continued forever until my retirement age. No doubts on that. That is my identity. It has been until a few months ago, very recently. But I have also commitment towards my family. So I start shifting my thinking and I ask my husband, my partner in life, to give me 2 weeks time, where in my night times after work was the end of the year, so a lot of working commitment, as you may know. I could allocate 2 weeks time to choose an alternative, as I call it a plan B, that could provide some options to my family while still motivating me as a woman in growth. And I will propose him the destination and I will propose my voting committee and see what they will do. And the way I did it was a bit peculiar. I created an Excel sheet like I do for work for my programs. And I listed 46 criteria that I felt will fit each of us, and eventually I insert them in the artificial intelligence, which until that time I didn't use much, and there was a ranking of countries and locations that could be suitable for us. And the first one was Malahide, which I didn't know where it would be, and it led me zooming in on and it led me to Ireland, County Dublin. I was curious. Me and my husband decided to undertake a quick trip. The office generously granted me transactional teleworking so that this could pave the way for registration into a new school year for my children in January, really around the corner, and the opportunity to decline the upcoming offer, which the last one came on the 24th of December, just my Christmas gift. And when I came here, I realized it was tangibly the opportunity for my children. I felt safety, no more need for extra security measure. I felt very good public school system, good public services, a very inclusive community vibes and society. So the values we share and we privilege. The same work I was providing for others and the same entitlements I want for all of the children of the world, the most vulnerable, could finally be also at the services of my children, and opportunities for my husband, given a very severe housing crisis in the country, and he's a construction manager, a project manager. This could suit him, and he has been sacrificing his career for the past 15 years for me. So it was time to exchange. And the growing country, so a lot of reality, upcoming European Union chairing and presidency in the next 6 months. So a lot of motivating and stimulating opportunities on the horizon. So I had to be brave, and I wrote my thank you letter with declining the offer, explaining my reasoning, and receiving immense solidarity and support from UNICEF, back home in Bangladesh, from UNICEF in the receiving country office, in New York headquarters, and also here by the National Committee, by the Executive Director himself. So I felt understood, and this gave me strength and resilience to build on the next phase.
You brought very important topic, relevant for many people with international career, about silent sacrifice of partners and partnerships. And if you could give one advice to someone who is going through the same decisions, and especially now, because now the situation is that contracts are for 6 months, 1 year, and it's unclear what to sacrifice, who should be a leading force. What would be your advice to this person?
Well, for the procession, well, for the professional that wants to embark into this journey, I will say that always ponder the pros and cons. So, what matters more to you? Everything is very relative and depends also on the phase of life. I could not have quit 10 years ago. It would have been more heartbreaking than it was 4 months ago. So, I believe really a reflection around your life situation is fundamental. Being very honest with yourself. If you want to consider other elements, if you have a partner, maybe try to alternate. As I say, my partner followed me for 16 years. It has been a lot for him. Luckily, he always found a job. He invested smartly in some perfectioning of his career, second masters, among others, and he adjusted from private sector, as I say, to the United Nations itself, serving the most vulnerable. But it wasn't always easy or automatic. It was always a bet. So this uncertainty also can affect relationships, and you want to exchange at one moment and alternate. You want to shift the power dynamic within your household as well. I think for us was the healthier way to do it this
Mhm.
way. And for the children, when they come along, then they become your most important value, and therefore they need to be considered. My 8 years old associated immensely with Bangladesh. Charlotte will never want to leave. Alexandre was ready to move to any other destination. He is a globetrotter. They are both citizens of the world in a different way. But when I proposed Ireland, he felt blessed. So I could see in their eyes a relief. The relief may be to have also their mother more available. The multiple mission, my regular mission, maybe twice a week or twice a month in the last period, affected their routine immensely. So knowing that I am more available, that sometimes I can pick them up at school, that I will be present now at the school parents meetings. I felt it was a time to give them this back in this um, time where they are shaping their personality and becoming increasingly responsible citizen adults in the pre-adolescent phase. So I felt, there is a time for everything. It doesn't mean for me will be over. It means I will just reprioritize as I did in my programming. And it always turns out to be the best choice.
You told about your marriage, but 25 years with UNICEF also sound like a second marriage. And actually, you often call it like your marriage to UNICEF. Can you explain why?
You're making me smile because actually, yeah, the first marriage, when I met my husband in Liberia, we married on the 11/11/11. I told him clearly, I'm married to UNICEF. This is my life dream. This is what I achieve. And I'm not ready to sacrifice it. Are you ready to follow me? So my condition in my pre-marriage agreement were clear. And he was flexible enough to support me. I felt he was very open-minded for a young professional that has, many opportunities ahead of himself to acknowledge my work, my ambition, my dedication and commitment, because I think more than ambition, that's what you do when you serve in the United Nations. And things have accompanied me in these 20 years. Of course, it's a marriage. I learn through it, I adjust through it, I change. I got tough times. I thought about separating, I remain. I focus on my evolution. I met incredibly people very valuable to me forever. My mentors, supervisors, team members, with who I'm in touch weekly, peers that will be lifelong friends. So obviously it is a marriage. And once you are a retiree, you can never dissociate with it. It's still part of my identity and will always be. It shaped me. It made me who I am in the good and bad times.
And how did you navigate this uneasy, I assume, transition from international service and UNICEF, UN to another chapter of your life?
Absolutely hard at first in those 12 days where I had to take the decision. So those 2 weeks were really critical, and I will just stare at the walls thinking of myself doing something else, something I could never imagine before, because again, I associated my identity with it, my whole life, and I built upon it very consistently and persistently. So I made myself a promise. I went through kind of intimate exercise. And I thought, whatever I decide, I have to stick with it. There is no way back because I need to provide stability to my family. That's my priority. So I put 2, 3 bullet points on my wall so that every morning, whenever I will be atrociously attacked by doubts, I will tell myself that's a reminder of why I did it and that's worth it. And I actually didn't need to, I actually didn't have to use it much because the second I moved to Ireland, I was too busy building my second phase of life. I had to think about how to diversify some investments, how to think out of the box, exploring partnership in countries I'm very acquainted with, like Brazil, my second home, exploring new realities like Latvia, for instance, looking into the potential of some initiative versus others, continuing with my commitment to help the most vulnerable or to generate evidence and contribute to research. I immediately collaborated here with UNICEF, with Trinity College, and this motivated me immensely and made me think, even though I may work in another sector, I will still be linked to what I love the most, that is providing for the most vulnerable. I have been honored to be invited by very prestigious associations for contributions, design of programs, fundraising opportunities, etc., among others. I have been very creative in taking some risks. I am opening a medical center with my brother and my sister-in-law. They are doctors and other 2 partners in Italy. So back to the roots, trying to contribute towards a mental health perspective in a mental health center. So being always very consistent with my passion and providing serial advisory within the adolescent mental health portfolio globally. So I've been very much active and occupied, and not to forget the integration of my children in a new reality. Well, accompanying them in the learning how to walk, since they were always in a very huge bubble reality, always in diplomatic enclaves, having a normal life, learning how to take a bus, walking to school, having different perspective on life. It took me a lot of energy, but it is worth it, all of it.
And also, many people who go through transition, they have many fears. Many people who face this change when you move from one sector to another have fears to look stupid, to lose their identity, to feel like newbie in a new sector. How did you manage these fears?
Well, the fear is something that should never leave you, so that you are stimulated to perfection it and to do better. So it's always with me, it's on my side, and I manage it in a very rational way. I think the biggest question mark was, I say no, what is going to be next? Will I ever have another opportunity? And yet, I'm grateful to Ireland because I discovered a country with outstanding meritocracy where merits are acknowledged. When I arrived and I was still serving for UNICEF Bangladesh over my nights due to the time difference, I was offered a senior position at the government. I was considered for a senior position at the government, and I could not accept. It was just too early. I had my plans. I had a to-do list to comply with. There was a time frame I needed to respect for my children to be at ease, for my husband to insert himself immediately in the job market, for me to pave the way for new projects. And so I felt it wasn't the right time. It will also imply that I will work very frequently. We didn't have a childminder yet. I was very new to the area. So I had to decline. And this was another micro trauma because I felt, upon all the collection of selection processes I undergo last year, I still could not accept a job. So where was my reward? It is difficult. It makes you question your decisions. But I felt that being consistent with myself, the decision I have made, the commitment towards my family, it will eventually bring new opportunities. And so far, all my investment, including the partnership with you today, I'm privileged to be able to contribute to the many people who have been asking me for the past few weeks, how did you make it? How did you integrate yourself? What are the options for us? I'm thinking to come from the US. I'm not anymore in US aid. I need to find another scenario. They proposed me to create a blog. I wasn't just ready. I didn't have the time. And I think, everything I've done, it paid me back. And if I could contribute even in a very tiny way to provide an alternative to someone that is now in the dark, I am grateful for that. And I will be doing it for the utmost enthusiasm.
And changes bring challenges, but also opportunities. How do you think, at least for now, what new opportunities or freedoms you got actually because you left the previous career?
Well, not necessarily because I left my career, but because I define myself by who I am. I'm not anymore only one logo. I am a person with his own identity, and the creation of this identity came from my learning. So I humbly recognize that today Elisa Calpona is someone that believes in helping others still, despite not carrying anymore one specific flag or being the spokesperson of a specific organization, is someone that can provide advisory, lectures at university, still inspiring younger generation, contributed to maybe concretize their dreams, but maintaining that autonomy, the independence to define what is best for me and my family. And I'm not excluding to go back to work as a full-time professional or manager because I have a lot to give and I believe that productivity is what I care the most. Delivering results is very linked to my personality. But I like to do it in a way that is more creative. So when I define my own agenda during the week, I know I have multiple commitments. I attend many meetings. I've been invited to Ombudsman Office Policy Forum, and I can share my point of view. I can apply all my learning, and I can translate it into, my new identity. So I never let it go. It just transformed within me, and it was enriched by new experiences. As I say, thinking out of the box on how to build also a legacy for my children in the future. So some investments, anything that I didn't have the time or the opportunity to do before.
And as you mentioned, you have really a lot to give to other people. Your experience is striking. It's really about leadership across borders, about resilience, about reinventing yourself, challenging yourself, and going out of comfort zone and I don't know, challenging the system as well and other people. And your story actually inspired me. I am sure it will inspire many people. And I thought maybe if you have time in your busy calendar with all the crazy project you have, maybe you would consider supporting and joining forces in supporting other people who are going through the similar changes. especially now when so many people are losing their jobs, transitioning through different careers, who asking the same question, who am I and what will be tomorrow? So Elisa, maybe you could consider for future that we can create some joint effort, joint project to support other people. What do you think?
I am touched. I'm touched because it isn't easy. It wasn't for me. It isn't for many. Putting myself at the service of colleagues, peers, friends, it's a duty. I'm committed to that, so count on me, absolutely. Different shape of forms of collaboration, I'm available. I will always find time to contribute to other people's happiness. I think it has been instrumental to receive immense support from my mentors, for people that still believe in me, even people that I met recently and that trust me and show me that trust. And I want this to be the experience of many others. That's my commitment. Thank you, Luda. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. I just have a few more questions. Your life changed dramatically, and a world is changing actually dramatically every day. How you think, at least now, how you see your success in 5 years?
Well, I'm almost shy to call it success. I don't know how life will take shape, but I hope, my wish, my goal, my commitment is to have a healthy family that is stable. That's something my children made me sign in a domestic contract when we landed in Ireland. I would love to still be a role model for them, to be productive and efficient, because I think each of us needs to find purpose in life. And I wish to be able to serve in entities where my values are fully fulfilled. I was sponsored by very generous professionals also in private sector recently, but I need to feel the click for whatever I'm gonna do, because it needs to be providing me with the same purpose I was lucky enough to experience for all my career. And I hope I can continue being true to myself and ethical in a way that imposes me transparency towards myself, towards others, whoever I liaise with. Because I think one of the biggest learning of my career is that you don't need to be always the comfortable one to comply, to abide. You need to be courageous. You need to be brave enough, courageous enough to be able to share your point of view, to be able to maintain your standards, your value, your ethics above all. So that's my wish.
Many people are going through very difficult period now, especially in international service. If you could give one advice to someone going through this transition and these challenges, what would you say to this person?
Do not despair. It's a phase. The sector will be resilient and survive, but it requires some adjustments. So try to believe in yourself and analyze what your strengths are and how this can be converted and translated into other scenarios. Private sectors, NGOs, government entities, building your own enterprise, capitalize on your savings, rely on your team that is an in-house team, like your partner. Do not despair, because you are absolutely capable to make it work. Even if you don't imagine yourself in another place, if you close your eyes very hard and you think before you were not doing this job, you weren't born doing this job, there are many other options for each of us. And so let's use them, let's explore them, let's get out of the comfort zone. I don't want to state the obvious, but it makes the whole difference, and then it will make you prouder.
It's very inspiring. And with this inspiration, I thank you for this conversation. And I'm sure that it will be rewarding time and rewarding challenges and experience for everyone, for you. And I wish you success in all your journeys. And thank you everyone who listened to us. And we will have more interesting conversations and inspiring guests.
Thank you, Ludmila, from the bottom of my heart. Again, I feel humble for being part of this dialogue and your project. It seems absolutely relevant and necessary in this historical moment. I wish you the best in this initiative and count on me once again. You take care.